Number 4, your lead. There are 100 different types of leads and weights, and it's quite confusing. Now what you need to do is pick a lead that is most aerodynamic. Now aerodynamic is usually the ones with a pointy end, and they are usually quite long. You don't want ones that are bulky, because that will grip the air as it flies through it, and it will slow the lead down. You want something that is aerodynamic, and the aerodynamic shapes, usually it's quite easy because they are labeled as distance leads. So what weight must you pick? Because there's all sorts of weights. You even get a kilo lead. So finding a balance between a lead that has got enough weight to it to maintain its momentum versus a lead that you can cast really fast but it doesn't maintain its momentum. But if you go too heavy, you're not going to get that tip speed. So what I suggest, with a 3.5 test curve rod, I would get a 3.5 ounce lead or a 4 ounce lead. So I'd go anything from your test curve to half an ounce up. So if you got a 2 pound test curve, I'd use a 2 ounce lead or a 2.5 ounce lead. If you got a 4 pound rod, I'd use a 4 or a 4.5. You get my point. So getting the right shape and the right weight lead can really make the difference between casting far, breaking your rod, or just cast it by your feet. Then finally, your technique. Your technique is so important, because I have seen so many stupid techniques where guys are just trying to murr this rod as far as possible, and all they're doing is killing their momentum, killing their tip speed, and they're just not going to do it. Let's take you through exactly what I do to get a decent technique. Okay, before I start, earlier I said yards, I meant meters, sorry. So if you want to cast 170 meters, these are the steps that I take to do it, so hopefully those will help you. Okay, first thing you got to do is put on one of these. It's just a finger protector. There are two kinds, the ones that you just slot on, the ones that you tie like this. I've got no preference really, they're all the same. Just get one that fits your finger right. That's pretty much my advice. Anyways, so you do that. Next step is to wet your spool. What wetting your spool will do is it will help your line come off your reel, and it will help you get less wind knots. Now wind knot, you will find out what those are if you use braid. Next thing is, when you are looking at how much line to let off for your lead, how much must you do it? Basically what I do is it needs to be halfway up your rod. So I'd say where your blanks meet, or between your butt and your next eye. Then the next step, before you forget, is lock your drag down. Make sure this thing is fast, because if that slips, trust me, you won't make that mistake again. Okay, so your lead is halfway down your rod. You've got your finger on your line like we always do. Your spool is locked and your line is wet. Next step, you take your rod in front of you and point it to where you're going to cast. Now I'm aiming for an opposite feature. There's a tree that's pretty high, and I'm going to go for that. You put it in front of you like that, with your other hand by your belly button. Then what you do is your feet are about hip width distance apart, maybe a little bit more, with your left foot in front if you're right-handed, your right foot in front if you're left-handed, and you point your front leg, your left leg, also to where you're going to cast. Then from there you lean back. As you take your rod back, you put almost all of your weight onto your back foot. Take your rod down all the way to parallel with the ground. If you don't make it parallel to the ground, a lot of the guys start their cast there, and they're wasting that little extra space that they could have had to generate a good tip speed. So take it back. This arm is almost straight, your right arm is almost straight. Don't lock it too much because you can hurt yourself. Almost straight, all your weight is back, and as you shift your weight forward, pull this hand down to your belly button again. keep this hand relatively straight and rock all of your weight back onto your front leg, your left leg, and cast as your rod hits about, I'd say 1 o'clock. So there, all my weight is back, and send it. Okay, cool bananas. So that's what you got to do. Now, if you can, use a bit of your back and shoulders, but don't do it too much. So let's go for a cast. There, pointing my rod to where it needs to be. Finger on my hand on my belly button. Bring it back. Weight into my back foot and send her. If your casting technique is good, it's not going to feel like it's too much effort. It's very interesting because you see these guys whack these rods, and sometimes guys break rods because they're actually whacking it wrongly, and the rod doesn't get to load up properly. Now what putting your rod at parallel to the ground does is it helps you load up your rod. So it loads up the whole rod and gets that it just pretty much lets you use the whole potential of the rod. Let's do it one more time. Bit long. There you go. Weight onto my front foot as I bring it back. Use the full. There you go. Okay, so that's something happened. So what you do when you're casting back is watch my finger. I just do this. All that does is it pulls a little bit of line through the rod. And what that does, it lets me know that the rod tip isn't twisted. If your line twists around your rod tip and you cast, you can break your rod like that. So always check that. So if you watch me, I'm always tickling the line. So tickle the line, tickle the line, tickle the line, tickle the line just before you cast, and then whack. Then the last tip I will give you in terms of technique is when you bring, the reason why I started there instead of starting it at the back is what that does is it allows the lead to swing just a little bit. So as it swings back, you can send it. Why I do that is because it allows the momentum of the lead to load up your rod a little bit better. If you start from a static, it's like starting a 100-meter sprint from static versus starting it at a jog. That guy that's starting on a jog is going to get 10 meters ahead of the guy starting from static just after the gun's gone off. So that's what it helps with that. So those are my techniques. Now I know my casting technique is not perfect, but hopefully one of these tips can help you guys cast further. If you'd like to buy this fantastic new rod in the country, or these Wychwood Riots, these 75S, or that DPF, that purple mono that looks so nice, go to cmfcarp.co.za. It's a brand new website and you can get all of your NGT and Wychwood stocks there. So all of those cool things, go there, check it out. Check out the CMF Facebook page, the link is in the description. And till next time, I'll see you next time on It's Tip Top Fishing. Till then, tight lines guys.